All right. So, welcome to Sipurey Maasios. Let's just share the screen a little bit and touch this tremendous Maisa. Can you see the text? Is it big enough? Okay. So we said it's a Maisa, B'chocham Echad, one sage, before he passed away, called his sons and his family and ordered them to water trees. Because you have rishus to deal with other occupations, but this should be your main focus. Your prime directive, as it is said in Star Trek. Water trees. And then he passed away and he left sons. Obviously, this particular chacham is analogous to Avraham Avinu. In this week's past week's parsha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says before the Maisa of Sdom, and he says, "Am I hiding from Avraham Avinu that which I'm doing? He's going to be father of many nations." He says, in order, for I know that he will order his family and children to go in the way of Hashem to do tzedakah and mishpat. Which, apropos this, I heard an interesting pshat from Rav Yitzchak Meir Hager Shlita that said that the Baal HaTanya says, it says that Avraham Avinu was the third day after his circumcision. That's the most difficult day physically. So Rashi said that Kadosh Baruch Hu took the sun out of its scarab, of its bag, because the inner part of the sun, is by far the hottest, and the outer sun is called a scarab, is called, a bag, that the inside of the sun, which is far hotter than the outside, is concealed because Baruch Hu took it out. So Baal HaTanya explains that to take the sun outside of its vessel, of its casing, as it were, is analogous to the meaning of being in total dveikus with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You're totally one with him. Avraham Avinu has reached a level of dveikus with Kadosh Baruch Hu that there is no shadow there. There is no metzias for any kind of obstruction to the dveikus to Kadosh Baruch Hu. A 99-year-old man, makes a bris milah, achieves, the entire world is against him. The entire world is totally on the other side. And then he goes and he does it. He achieves a madrega of Kadosh Baruch Hu is taking out the sun from its shield. It's a total dveikus. But Avraham Avinu is not satisfied with that. Avraham Avinu is not like Lot. He's not like Noach. Noach, is a good Jew. He wasn't a Jew, of course, but he's a good El Chiyid. He lives his life. He learns Torah. He has, all the nations of the world come from him. 70 nations. Shem, Ham, Yefes, each one, bad ones, good ones, whatever. But Avram Avinu realized that his role was not to attain a level of dveikus b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is above any other. That's not his job. His job is to create a nation. His job is to create a way where he's ordering his children and his family to water trees. So Avram Avinu, it says, okay, dveikus is gewaldik, but I'm more interested in getting, in these three Arabs that bow down to the dust of their feet, to be mekar of them. These are the ones that I'm looking for. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew that this is what Avram wants to do, so he kept the sun outside of its back, so regular people would not be able to come. And he said, in Malachim, so should be Mekayim the mitzvah with Malachim, and not with regular people. But this is just as an aside, as it were. And he said, this is what we said, there was one son that could not walk, but he could stand, only he just couldn't walk. And his brothers would give him enough for his first sustenance. And they gave him enough until he had some left. And that son that could not walk was put his pennies together, what was left from his parnasa, until he got a certain sum. And he thought to himself, why should I receive sustenance from them? It's better that I should start my own business. Even though he can't walk, he arrived at a decision to hire a wagon and secretary and a driver, and you will go to Leipzig and do business with them, even though he cannot walk. So the last time when we spoke about this, we pointed out that whereas the exchange prince, because he grew up in the house of a slave, it influenced him. It influenced him in a way that he was more interested in that which we didn't have than in what he did have. He was more aware of what is missing than what he actually has. This is a very typical starting point for a slave. This is mostly where we are. Not all of us. Few people, are go-getters, people that grow up in well-balanced homes, to say nothing the people that grow up in homes of tzaddikim, of true tzaddikim. And even there, even here and there, you have a blip. But what we're seeing over here, we're seeing that the cripple is born with a handicap. But because he is the son of this chacham that says the main thing is to water trees, he comes from a healthy state of mind. He comes from a state of mind that says, the main thing is that you have, and you have to give others. You have to water trees. You have to be kind to others. You have to be makar of others. One of the things that are the secret of family that is going through a hard time, relationship-wise, is it's very easy to go to speak to somebody and find out, to be a referee, to judge who's right and who's wrong. That's, he does that, she does that, and he started, she started, and, somebody moved my cheese, or whatever language you want to use. But the truth of the matter is that the easiest way to pass a difficult time, whether it's matrimonial, whether it's with children, whether it's at work or anything else, the easiest way to pass it it's not necessarily an anodyne for everything. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it definitely diminishes the problems to the point that sometimes that which is left, the problems that are left, you see how truly insignificant they are. And that is to be kind. You're living with someone that you do get along, you don't get along, whatever it is, the main thing to make things not just easier for him, but easier for yourself is to be kind to the other person. The main way to be kind to the other person is with words. Of course, to do things, to take care of things for the other person, but the main thing is with words. This means to water trees. You cannot stand, you're a cripple, you're not a cripple, things are going well, things are not going well. There is a tendency, it's not a tendency, it's almost like an unwritten rule, it's etched in stone, that in relationship, if people are not careful of abstaining from the Torah prohibition of oinos dvarim, of hurtful speech, it is inevitable that things will get out of hand and will snowball to the point of no return. Whenever it is that two people have to get together, let alone more. I told you this moshel at least one time before, knowing me probably many more than just one time. When two people are in a marriage, or it's like two people inside a high school locker trying to get dressed simultaneously. It's inevitable that you'll get your elbow in the other person's chin while you're trying to put your sweater on. It takes time until you choreograph the ballet that each one is putting that part of clothing on that enables the other to, sort of like there's like a dance, and then you're both able to be dressed without killing one another. But the first thing here is kindness. You see, he couldn't walk, he couldn't stand. I mean, he could stand, but he couldn't walk. The first thing his brothers would give him as much as he needed. It's very easy when somebody is needy in your family to just getting out of my sight, you know? Let's just get rid of him. What is it? The child is nagging and begging for something that I don't think he should have. So the child begs and begs and begs and nags and nags and nags until you give him or her or whatever it is that he or she is asking for. And guess what? Years later, you speak to that child, and this child says, you know, you never gave me anything. And you're looking at him as if he fell from Mars. You got 80% of everything that we gave to all our children combined. How can you say he didn't get anything? Because the answer is he didn't get anything. He took it all. He blackmailed you. So whatever he got, he never got anything. He never got a satisfaction of getting something. Yeah, he got it out of you. But it was like pulling teeth. Such a child, or such a wife, or such a husband will always feel that he's not getting anything. I have to beg for everything. I have to argue for everything. I have to blackmail for everything. I can't do that. You may be getting, he may be getting or she may be getting whatever it is that they are nagging for, but they're never getting anything. Over here, the fact that his brothers would give him what he needs. In other words, they gave him. He got. And when you give somebody, and when somebody gives to you, you don't extricate it from them. You don't blackmail it from them. You don't mach them meshigah until they give it up. Just get the heck out of my sight. It creates within the spouse, the child, the worker, the boss, whatever, the feeling that I got, therefore I have. And if you have a feeling that you have, you're very careful, as we said last time, with your resources. It's when you feel that you don't have anything, that you have to press for anything. And whatever it is that you got because you threw such a tantrum that forced the other person or the parent or the spouse or whoever it is to give you what you wanted. Once you get what you wanted, you are hungry as you were before you got it. So whatever it is that you have, you spend it immediately. Because if you don't spend it, you don't have an excuse to nag for something else. Because you didn't get. Yes, you have, but you didn't get, you took. So the main thing that we are actually meeting here when it comes to inner work and what you call self-improvement, or whatever you want to call it, in Avodas Hashem. And we want to open new horizons for ourselves. The thing that we absolutely must create for ourselves and change for ourselves is our state of mind. This is, as we said in the story of the exchanged children, is the biggest challenge to change your story. because we are all acting of our story. I was an abused child, or I was a neglected child, or I was a rejected child, or whatever it is. And, as the famous saying, when we're children, they tell us what we are, and we live our lives proving them right. The point is that if we want to start behaving on a new journey, we need to be able to change the story, not to act out of the story, rather. We can change the story, but we're not to act out of the story. A very, very good idea, according to Rabbi Glazer, according to Gidi Dabus, according to quite a few people who happen to know what it is they're talking about, is, first of all, get to know your story. It shouldn't be a bad idea if you feel stuck, if you feel that you can't move, because obviously here you find a cripple who is anything but stuck. He has all the reasons in the world to justify remaining stuck and not going anywhere. But he possesses a marvelous sense of freedom. If there are objective hindrances to his ambition, he finds a compensation. He finds a way around it. Can walk, no problem, get a wagon, get a secretary, get a driver, you're done. So the first, if you feel that you are stuck, go move. What do you want me to do? You want me to move? You want me you I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. I don't even know where I'm stuck. I don't even know what it is I need to change. Either you use a friend or you use a piece of paper. Reb Nosson says, make the pen your friend. Write down your story. Do yourself a favor. Write down your story. Find different points, a repeating experience that you went through. Usually, you will learn your story best that way. The idea is that I felt that this one did this to me, and this one did this to me, and my mother did this to me, my father did this to me, and this one did this to me, and that one did to me. And usually there's the same story going on and on and on and on and on. We're recreating the same kind of story over and over. If I have, a fear of rejection, usually I'm also addicted to rejection. So I'm afraid of it and I create it. Whenever it is that people are being too nice to me, I make myself a nuisance until they reject me. And then I sort of feel, oh, that's my natural state. This is normal for me. I know that. This is a level of comfort. First of all, write your story down. Get to know where you're coming from, not what other people did to you. As long as it's concentrated on what other people did to you, you're still inside the story. You need to be able to look from outside the story. Okay, let's assume you did that. You found out what your story is. You went to Hillel Rosenfeld and he told you what the story is. helped you figure out, or you did whatever it is you did, and you were able to figure out your story. Fine, now you know your story. The question is, what now? Knowing your story does not change the story. It also does not change the default mode that you're acting out, you're out of your story. That's your default mode. The answer is, as usual, you daven. You go ahead and you beg Kodesh Baruch Hu to change, to give you a state of mind of a giver. The one thing that you start doing, to start the process together with the tefillah, because it's a tefillah, it's a mechzah. Tefillah does have. The one thing that you do in order to affect this change of state of mind is what the Chacham says: you start watering trees. You assume a position of a giver. You give. You cannot be a victim if you're a giver. It's a very fundamental principle. If you want to stop being a victim, be a giver. Being a giver does not mean that you give in to other people's pressure and blackmail and threats, because then you're just appeasing. And if you're appeasing, you're lying. You're not giving. You're paying off. If you want to actually attain a change in a state of mind, a state of mind of freedom, a state of mind of being independent, of being successful, of being happy, the first thing you need to do is you need to water trees. You need to give. This is the first thing you need to do. It starts from that. You daven and you water trees. You act kindly. Do a favor. Usually when you find yourself that somebody is asking you for something and it's reasonable, but you don't want to do it, because why the heck should I do it? It's usually a sign that you should do it. And one of the things that we learn from Avraham Avinu, whose main job was watering trees, is that one of the most precious gifts that you can give is when it's not warranted not to give. You may be under bombardment, you may be under a lot of inconvenience and pressure and a temptation to buy peace, to buy love, to buy a peace of mind. In Hebrew, they call it sheket ta'asiyati. They call it a manufactured peace. Industrial peace, they call it. It's a fake peace. And the thing is that you'll be amazed. If you will say yes when you need to say yes, and if you will say no when you need to say no, your relationship will improve miraculously. Saying yes when you should be saying no does not improve your relationships. Ever. Ever. In fact, I'll tell you even more than that. One step weiter. When you tell a spouse, it doesn't matter if it's a man to a woman or a woman to a man, when you say to your spouse no when no is warranted, they will respect you more. Not only will they respect you more, but they will find you more attractive. It doesn't mean that you should say no for saying no and say, check me out. I'm Mr. Tough Guy. I'm saying no. That's at all not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you feel like saying no because you don't feel like saying yes, don't do it. Say yes. Want to take out the garbage? Please take out garbage. Oh man, I'm dying. I can't take out the garbage. Leave me alone. Get up and take out the garbage. But when a no is warranted, and your mind tells you that no is warranted, just say no. And the no should be a no. And if there are consequences to the no, like arguments, like tantrums, like this, okay, it's okay. It's a gift. It's a great gift. It's a great gift that you're giving somebody you love to say yes when you just feel like saying no, and to say no when you know that the no is what you need to say. They're both giving. Is the secret of relationship. But more than just that, it is a secret of building yourself, building a state of mind of a person who is free. A person who starts seeing possibilities. Because when you give, whether it's a yes or a no, but from the point of view of giving, you're already thinking as an independent. You're already thinking as an adult. When this is the action that you do, while you're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change the way you see things, to change your state of mind, to become a giver, to become independent, to become a success, because success is a state of mind. To become a success, it should always be a tandem of tefillah and watering trees, giving and asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when that happens, you feel that you have. When you feel that you have, you give out, and you make sure that you have what's left. You don't give up to the last penny, because what you're going to give tomorrow. You know, that bill's coming. You know, certain things are not good to give. You know, this is supposed to worry about how you're going to pay the electric bill or the rent or whatever it is you need to do. When you have, and you are the one who is, you know, when the buck, you know, stops, sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. You're not always Mr. quote unquote, you're always Mr. Nice Guy, but you're not always Mr. Agreeable, and you're never Mr. Appeaser. Unless you actually think that the other person, this is what they need right now, because they're in a fragile state of mind, and right now what they need is just unmitigated kindness without any strings attached. Later on, we'll keep the accounting of what needs to be done. But it comes out of giving. It's not a lie. Appeasing is a lie. It means you're living in a lie. And women should know that even more than men. A woman that lies to her husband will never respect her, whether he knows that she's lying to him or he doesn't. He won't even know why he doesn't respect her, but he will not respect her. Same thing as a husband lying to his wife. As we said, the wife knows everything. She just doesn't have the words to put it in. I really would like for us to take this particular nakuda of I have to work on my state of mind, not just for me, but for my children and for my wife and for all the people around me. Because the way these things work is there's a ripple effect. When you change yourself and you become a giver and you are watering trees, it goes on. You know, they say what goes around comes around. You know, it creates a different dynamic. And when the different dynamics is going on, that, you know, one favor begets another. And ultimately you become more flexible. And your companions will become more flexible at the same time. And when you're flexible, you are able to embrace and to contain the other. And the problems which will continue to exist will be shown in their true perspective, which is usually that big when there's peace and kindness going on, as opposed to as big as Empire State Building, when there's strife going on, when there's no giving on, there's only taking place. So I really would like to highly recommend to you and to me, let's take this coming week to concentrate on this avodah. This avodah. Give because you think that you need to give, and say no because you think, to the best of your knowledge, the best of your judgment, that no is warranted. They're both giving. And ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to start changing that which seems to be unchangeable. And how can I change who I am? You can. You can. You can heal your life by watering trees. I think B'ezrat Hashem will finish here. And B'ezrat Hashem, Thursday night, we will meet with the Kuta Maharan. And I want to thank you very, very much for being here tonight.